The truth is out there. Here's your look at the Threezero. This is the X-Files 1/6 scale collectible figure of Agent Scully. Threezero are proud to present this highly detailed figure featuring lifelike realism that is crafted with the authentic likeness of FBI agent Dana Scully, as portrayed by Gillian Anderson in the X-Files television series. The first thing I suspect we're going to be doing is figuring out how tall FBI agent Dana Scully stands. Now, I can tell you that she's going to be a little bit smaller than Fox Mulder, a concern that I think many collectors actually had with picking up this piece for themselves. The truth is out there, though, according to my trusty tape measure. You see what I did there? The figure stands 10.5 inches in height. So, yeah, she's a little bit shorter than a standard 12-inch tall figure. And in centimeters, that works out to be 26.7 centimeters tall. Moving the figure over, just so you can see what I'm talking about, we're going to bring in the other figure that we had a look at, also from the folks over at Threezero. This was her partner in crime, Fox Mulder. We'll just get his feet to be completely flat. There we go. If you look at the two figures side by side, she is a lot smaller. Now, to be fair, actress Gillian Anderson is only 5'3". She's very tiny. It's hard, actually, when you see these actresses on screen, how tall they actually are. They seem like they're of a good height. 5'3", it's pretty small. David Duchovny stands at a rather average 6 feet tall. So I guess if you looked at the two side to side, height-wise, I think they're about the same. They're accurate to the way that they are in the series. Of course, like I said, David Duchovny is going to be like 6 feet tall. Yeah, Gillian Anderson is only really 5'3". I think maybe what throws the proportions off on these figures is not necessarily the height, but that she's a very small framed figure. Even like her head portrait, which we will be having a look at in a second, I think her head is a little bit too small by comparison to her partner, Fox Mulder. I think her head, if you look at most press images of X-Files, Gillian Anderson's head is roughly about the same size as David Duchovny. And I think that's where the disconnect maybe comes when you see these figures side to side. It's not so much, again, that she's short. I think that's not the problem at all. It's the fact, again, her frame and her head is maybe a little bit too small by comparison to Mulder here on her left. One certainly could have suspected I was abducted by aliens as the main reasoning why I never had a look at this figure sooner. A big fan of the X-Files growing up. Truth be told, it was a figure that sat the back burner all the while I was having a look at other things. And I told myself with the time available now I have sitting in my hands that I could get around to finally having a look at this figure. I honestly felt really bad for Mulder. He was wandering aimlessly on the glass shelf of my Detolf, wondering where Scully was. Usually I think it was the other way around. Anyways, we're having a look at the figure now. That's all that matters. The accessories that come included with one Dana Scully. She comes with the packed, supplied FBI issued firearm, which, as you can see, has been cast in black plastic. It does have a removable clip, which involves you having to get your finger in there, your fingernail, and just pull the clip out like so. As you can see, they've sculpted and painted a bullet on the end. I like that. And for, like I said, the most part, it's all been cast in black plastic, short of for the fact that it has some additional scratches of silver in there, I think just to kind of make it look like it's been used. If you do want to display the figure with it in hand, you can certainly pull off that feat. If you also would like to just display it with the holster, you can also put it in the supplied holster that Threezero include with the figure. The only thing about it, though, is, as you can see, there's this one little piece. It's not quite a fastener. It's not quite a snap. It's just this extra raised bit of tab that this is supposed to drape across and fit in place. It's a bit of a struggling thing, I have to admit. And I honestly feel like a magnet would have worked a lot easier, but that's what you end up getting. There's a clip on the back that's going to be fitted through her belt, which will involve, of course, lifting up her sport coat, which we can certainly do here in a second. But in the meantime, we'll have a look at her other issued accessories. She comes included with a flashlight. I can't tell you if the flashlight's actually on. It does look like, by the way that they've painted it, and that the way that the light sort of bounces off of it, that the intended plan was to make it look like it's lit up. Other than short of making this an actual light-up thing, which I don't know if you could be able to pull off for the size of what button cell batteries you would require, it's just a nice little piece. And I'm likely probably going to display both Fox and Dana with their supplied flashlights, kind of like what I did at the beginning of this review, where she's holding the gun in one hand and maybe the flashlight in the other. A strong contender, though, opposing that point is the fact that she does also come with her FBI ID. It's a somewhat faux leather. It's actually really just soft plastic. And as you can see at the top there, you got Department of Investigation, FBI, and then down below her badge with the signature. A nice piece, and currently, as it was before his partner actually joined in, I had Mulder actually just displayed on my shelf with the badge showing like this. I'll probably end up doing the same maybe with Scully. The thing about these things is all the accessories are so cool that there's a couple of different strong contenders as to the way you really want to display the figure. The badge certainly is a nice choice. Again, displaying her with the gun is also a nice option as well. Maybe I'll display her with the badge, and maybe I'll display Mulder with the gun. I don't know. Not really sure yet. She does also come included with her little phone. Dated, yes, this phone would be. I think I actually had this phone back in the day. Was it a TELUS, a 5160? That certainly was the phone I think I had back in the day. Didn't have much in the way of games. Not much really at all. Alleyway, I think, was about the only thing it had on it. And it was an absolute nightmare to have to text somebody, because you basically would have to go 11111 to shift through A, B, C. Remember those back in the day? Some of the youth watching these videos probably are like, I don't relate to that story that you're sharing. I can't imagine these phones actually would even have games on them. Their sole purpose is obviously to stay in contact with one another. Dana was repeatedly on the phone, usually trying to figure out what exactly Mulder has done next. But she does come included with that. And then last and certainly not least, for her FBI attire, she does also come with a much needed FBI tag, which of course will be attached to her jacket. Let me go ahead and show you how that works right now. So basically you just have her little collar sticking down from her jacket, and it's kind of a little like a clamp clip. You just slide it up and just attach it to her collar, just like that. Now, you could do it that way. She does have what almost looked at, when I first got the figure out of the packaging, like pockets, but it's just the way it's been seamed on both sides of her jacket. So you want to really clip it to the top of her collar there. Other accessories we can have a look at for the figure. You know, in a way, I'm a bit disappointed that these figures didn't come with display stands. I think really display stands would have been the best way to go with these figures. Not always do Threezero include display stands with their figures. Let me just get her to stand properly. Yes, in fact, most of the time the figures don't come with display stands. So you could probably just source out just a regular, you know, six scale stand. You can also contact customizers out there like Stoney's stands. I might see if you can actually produce some X-Files stands for my Mulder and Scully. Other things she comes included with is a series of interchangeable hands, which we can certainly have a look at right now. A pair of flat hands, just relaxed palms, come included with Scully. Currently in the sockets of her forearms, I've just got like closed fists. Nothing all that exciting there. But you can see the sculpting and care that they put into the fingers themselves. Very feminine looking fingers, complete with the fingernails. She doesn't paint her nails, supposedly, apparently. She does also come with gripping hands, ideally suited for holding the flashlight and the pistol. And she also comes with a trigger hand. So again, if she's wanting to hold the pistol, you can certainly put that into her hand. Let me just show you how that works right now. The fingers are very small. It actually even feels at times when I'm putting this into her hand that the hand doesn't belong with this pistol. It feels like it's almost too small. But again, for the sizing of the frame of this figure, I guess that's the size perfectly for her hand. It just seems really small, doesn't it? But you can fit that around the trigger finger of her, of course, of the gun there. And yeah, it's just a nice way to display the figure. Probably end up going that route. A couple other things you can look at when you have this figure for yourself is that she comes with some interchangeable pegs for the hands, and she also comes with an extra clip. Should you lose that one right there, it is awfully small. I would guess you would just feed it through the hole of the badge and then simply put that back in place. Now, one other thing, just before we talk a little bit about the figure, she does come included with her skirt. The skirt is just attached via Velcro. It will involve you removing the pants of Gillian Anderson and then putting the skirt in place. I personally would wave away from the idea of displaying her with a skirt. I kind of like the more business suit look of Scully, which sort of then leads myself to one small talking point about this figure. Like with Mulder, Scully was an exclusive version as well. So basically what we are looking at right here is the standard version of Scully. There was also an exclusive version of Scully that gave you, I think, some gloves, and more importantly, gave her the jacket that she could wear over top. Mulder, I had the Mulder displayed at one point with the jacket, and I'm really disappointed actually that I jumped for getting the standard version of Scully as opposed to the deluxe exclusive version that came with the jacket. It certainly would help to kind of fill her up a little bit, but also I think I'd kind of like the idea of having Scully and Mulder displayed as they were outside. Usually, of course, they were investigating crime scenes, trying to figure out what happened, and obviously you would want to have Scully wearing her jacket. So if you haven't yet jumped on the chance of picking up this one for yourself, I probably would myself recommend, learn from my own lessons, I probably would go the exclusive route versus the standard release. After much deliberation, we're finally having a look at the portrait here of Scully, which I have to say is actually really good. I think in a way that Scully's portrait looks a little bit better than Mulder's portrait. Again, if we just grab the figure off to the side of the camera, there we go. You can see the two side by side. Mulder, when you look at the two, looks a little bit more aged with the wrinkles on his forehead. I wish in now retrospect they could have maybe made him look a little bit more youthful. But I think Scully might actually have the better sculpt of the two. She has a smaller head, which was unfortunately one problem with the figure, but overall, really, really happy with how this one turned out. I think she has a very youthful skin tone to her. She doesn't have as much the wrinkles, like I said, that Mulder has, and I think she's a really nice looking head portrait. With this figure, though, I noticed that they've went more the coloring of brown in her hair. Gillian Anderson did change her hairstyle and coloring a few times in the series itself. But I think when I think Scully, I generally think more reddish hair. This seems almost closer to brown. To the credit, though, it's got some nice coloring with different layers of color. Lighter and darker browns make up the hair itself, and it really does look good. But I think I would have maybe preferred having it just slightly more the reddish coloring. I also noticed the way that it's been sculpted. It has this one line. I don't know if you can see it on the side. It's not as obvious. It kind of looks like that's where they installed the hairpiece to the head portrait. Because the hair also has other little divided areas as well. From a distance, it blends in pretty decently, actually. It's only when you look really close that you see this little dividing line right there. The face is really quite pretty. Very much a likeness of Gillian Anderson, who I had quite the bit of a crush on back in the day when X-Files was the hot show to watch every Friday night. Very, very happy, like I said, with how this portrait turned out. Yes, it is smaller than Mulder's, and maybe slightly more jarring when you have the figures side to side. But I'm really happy with how this one turned out. This was a figure as well that we had to wait a bit for Threezero to finally release. I think they had announced it and maybe had gone a full year before we actually saw the figure. There was talks, of course, that the figure was going to get released, and then I think it was postponed yet again. Finally seeing this physically in hand, finally now getting the review underway. I must say, though, I'm really happy with the fact that I did eventually pick this one up. As for the rest of her outfit, she is, of course, wearing her sports coat that does button up, and I do feel, if you look at it, that the buttons are capable of being removed, where you can take those off. My biggest problem that obviously will go with that is if you unbutton it, it probably will be an absolute nightmare of putting back in place. I don't think I'd ever imagine her with an unbuttoned jacket, so for that reason I'm likely just going to be leaving it together. The seaming is done pretty good on this. The pockets, as you can see right there, they appear to be real working pockets. On second thought, maybe not. It's looked as if you could actually fit your finger in there, but it seems instead that it has been seamed completely shut. The tailoring actually on the jacket is nice. It does give her a bit long of the sleeve, resulting in really a lot of times her hands being covered by the sleeve. If you go with the more relaxed hands, then the fingers stick out a little bit further. But if you go with the closed fists, yeah, the sleeves do cover up a lot of her hands. Continuing on, of course, we've got the very thin looking legs on Scully. And then down, all the way down, she's got her very shiny black pumps. Now, obviously, the one reasoning why I did wish these figures came with display stands is the fact that obviously there's very little of a footprint that actually touches a shelf. Because you're only really getting that back of the heel and the front of the feet, if you do have issues where, unfortunately, like I do, the ankles are a bit loose on this figure, that's why I was having a bit of a difficulty getting her to stand back up. She stands okay, but I really will probably go the route of finding her a proper display stand. Coupled for the fact that she does have slightly loose ankles, and for the fact that she has not very much of a footprint, certainly doesn't have the flat feet that Mulder has, she's going to be a little bit more difficult, I feel, to actually keep standing up. So for the figure's articulation, her head rotates all the way around, and it hinges up and down. If you look deep in there, it actually doesn't look like she's got a secondary joint. In other words, you only really have the ball joint to allow the head to move back and forth, up and down, and again, to rotate all the way around. She has an upper torso crunch as well, allowing also for some additional articulation. Not really that you're going to be moving the head or torso back like this, or forward like this, but the option is available if you want to. She has a waist swivel as well, but sort of a lot of it is constricted by the fact that she has the sports jacket over top of it. The arms move out quite easily, actually, and while you are moving it out, you're probably experiencing some additional padding starting to bunch up at the top in her shoulders here. Yeah, she does have shoulder pads. Kind of like, well, I mean, most business suits, sports jackets like this would have the additional padding on the top. So it makes sense that she would actually have that on hers as well. The arms move forward, a little on the tight side that way, and they also move back. She has a swivel at the bicep. She has a double bend in the elbow, and then she also has a rotation in the hands, whatever hands you decide to display the figure with. Split on the legs to about there. Anything else after the fact you would want to not rip the seam on her pants. Forward and back on the leg. She has a swivel on the top cut of the thigh, a single hinge knee, and she also has ankle rocker forward and back on the feet. Again, a really neat looking figure. My biggest regret, buyer's remorse, when it came time to actually pick this one up for myself, was the fact that I didn't get myself the ultimate exclusive, I added ultimate, but the exclusive version of Scully. I like the fact of having both Mulder and Scully dressed up in their outside jackets. And while I can do that with Mulder, sadly I couldn't do that with Scully because I only ultimately picked up the standard release that doesn't actually have that included. Now, if memory serves me, I think at one point Agent Dana Scully was going to be released on X day of X year, whatever day and year that was, but she was postponed. From what I heard, she was postponed because they were changing the manufacturer and ultimately resulted in when this figure was coming out, her body frame was a little bit different than what we had already gotten established with Fox Mulder. The figure does look a little different, almost like she is using a different type of body. I granted, yes, understand that she's using a female body, but she definitely seems smaller in proportions. At the time, though, when she was postponed, a panic-stricken me was worried that poor Mulder was going to be without his partner in crime, Dana Scully. It just didn't make sense. We've had this happen, certainly in past instances, where I picked up a figure of a duo, and then the other half of that never got released. What I'm coming to mind thinking about right now is the Lone Ranger. We got ourselves Tonto from Hot Toys. We never did get ourselves a Lone Ranger, and I know that's not the greatest of examples, but I certainly was thinking the same thing when Dana Scully was postponed. Luckily, though, she eventually did get her release, and while I will say that, again, the proportions of the figure, she does feel like she is a different figure to Mulder. Like, she is a little bit smaller, a little bit thinner. Yes, she is 5'3". And when you think 5'3", that's really small how actors and actresses actually are in real life. But Gillian Anderson is a very small 5'3". David Duchovny is 6 feet tall. So from a size-wise, height-wise, I think the figures line up well to one another. I think where the distortion comes is the fact that, once again, Scully's head is a little bit smaller than Mulder's, and her body seems a little smaller than Mulder's. So I think that's where it throws the figure out a bit. Height-wise, it's perfect, but I think it just comes across a little bit smaller framed versus Fox Mulder's already release. I'm happy that both of these are finally together, as they really should be, but I think hindsight being 2020, I probably should have picked up the exclusive version, because then at least I could have gotten the jacket, which I think would have filled out the figure a little bit better. Having her strictly in her business suit and slacks, I think also helped to make the figure look a little thinner, in contrast to, of course, Mulder. But I'm really happy with how this one turned out. Yes, the frame is a little bit smaller on Scully, but the head sculpt, I think, is better than Mulder's. That's just my own personal opinion. She does have all the accessories pretty much the same as what we had gotten with Mulder. Ultimately, when it comes to displaying her, I may very well just display them with what I've got going on right now here in Final Looks. I think the figures, though, definitely do need display stands. It certainly will help display and keep Gillian Anderson, Dana Scully, from falling over in my collection. Because she is wearing those awfully shiny black pumps, means there's a whole lot less of a footprint touching your shelf, and it may result in the figure falling over. So I'm going to see if I can maybe just source out a regular 6-scale stand so I can display both Fox Mulder and Dana Scully side by side as it was intended right from the beginning. I picked this one up over on Alter Ego Comics website, www.alteregocomics website, my usual go-to place when it comes to 6-scale figure releases. Not only do they double box, which is one of the biggest positive points for the website, you'll be surprised how many companies don't even do that. Usually they just put a Waybill sticker on the outside mailing box of a Hot Toys figure or a Threezero figure, and they ship it as is. Alter Ego Comics doesn't do that. They double box it, which I already quite like, and they're pretty fast when it comes to shipping things from point A, their warehouse, to point B, my house. If you guys are interested in picking this one up for yourself, it may not be available still on their website. It might have already been sold out. But if you certainly would like to browse over on their website, you can use the coupon code SPOT15 and save yourself 15 smackaroos off your purchase of $150 or more. One coupon code per household. Today, again, we were having a look, finally. Yes, I wasn't abducted by aliens. I know it took a little longer to get this review underway, but it was definitely a figure that I knew I wanted to get around to doing, and just with the circumstances of the world right now, I had a little bit more time on my hands to finally get a much-needed review of Dana Scully recorded and for you, my viewing audience. Let me know what you guys think of this figure down below, whether you picked this one up for yourself or based on this review and this review alone. What do you guys think of the Threezero X-Files Agent Scully 1/6 scale figure? If you guys also would like to go back and have a look at some of my other Threezero reviews, there's a playlist just for Threezero. And if you're new to this channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, as there's certainly going to be a lot more videos coming your way in the coming days, the coming weeks, the coming months, and the coming years. I haven't maybe thought that far ahead, but there's going to be a lot of videos still coming your way. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.